Aha! Ah, there we go. Ah, it's a stream. Do, do, do. It's a Monday. It's a stream. Hold on. What? A stream in these parts of the woods? Unlikely. She's gonna turn this on. A tiny bit stuffy in here. I don't want to. I have not wanted to open my window today because it's been still any windows. It's been so windy and wet, so it's maybe getting a little stuffy in here. So I'll turn that on. Anyway, hello. Welcome along to the stream. It is indeed a nice chill one today. Chills. Got my Spider-Man mug. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, with the with the modified emote. Yeah, that's good. I tried to have a plan for what to do today, but I ended up with no plan, which happens a lot. Ooh, what is that emote? Oh, it's just a butterfly emoji. That's what it looks like. Is this stream? Oh god, of course. Is this a stream? Yeah. I'm a little washed out. I mean, I am just a pale individual, but oh, I know why. Because there is some natural light coming in from outside for once. Let's just mess with the gain a little bit. That's a bit better. Just not quite so blown out. And of course, OBS loves to completely reset my camera settings between every time I launch it, so whatever. Anyway, hope you're doing well out there this Monday. Hope you've had a good week and a good weekend. I've had an interesting, well, a good but interesting last back half of the week. And yeah, well, I had a big thing on Thursday, which was we have now started doing the Crohn's injections rather than infusions. So I had my first one of those on Thursday. And as part of the medical trial that I'm on, I got randomized into the group that is stopping the other medication. So I've stopped taking the pills I was taking as well. So yeah, that's been a big change. That's the first time I've had my medication changed since 2006. And it is much later than that. Now. So yeah, that was a thing. But now I've got the at-home injection kits to do every 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, in 2 weeks there'll be a nurse coming around to make sure I'm okay doing it at home, and then after that will be just I'll still be going up to the hospital because I'm doing the part of the medical trial, so I'll have to I just have to go in and give some blood and answer some questionnaires, that sort of thing. So I'm not off the hook for for traveling up there every 8 weeks yet, but once that 8-month trial is finished, then yeah. So that was exciting. It was also kind of a weirdly, like, I don't know, affecting thing in the fact that I've been going up to the hospital, to this infusion clinic essentially since 2006, and it was, it wasn't a hassle really. And it was just a sort of very regular thing, and you would see a lot of familiar nurses and things, and now it's just like, it's gone. More or less. So yeah, that was on Thursday, and then yeah, that was on Thursday, and then a new and exciting routine. It's every 2 weeks, and it's on me every 2 weeks. So I should probably set up just a reminder, just a recurring thing, just to remind myself, because that's probably a good idea. Yeah, the thing is, like, the injections themselves are not the trial, because they have been used for this drug and for similar drugs for a while, and they seem to work really well. What it is just whether or not they need to keep you on what are called maintenance medication or maintenance drugs as well. Because effectively, not to go into like, I'm gonna get a little sciencey in here, and I don't like understand it like completely. Like, I'm not a doctor, so this is for legal reasons. This is not medical advice. But basically, the Crohn's, it causes a high level of inflammation in the digestive tract at certain points or wherever, and the infusions, the infliximab as it's called, is basically reduces that level of inflammation drastically. And that's also what the pills, they were called azathioprine, that's what they're also for that. But if you imagine every 8 weeks you sort of have the level of drug in your system is like a huge peak, and then it tails off for 8 weeks and boom, comes back up again. So it'd be a very sort of up and down graph if you were to chart it. And the thinking, and so the maintenance drugs are to keep you on a more even keel when that sort of tapers off. But so the thinking is, with having every 2 weeks, it evens out a lot more. So you're not going up, so you're just keeping a more even level of the medication. So you don't need so the thinking is you maybe don't need the other meds. And that's what we're trying to find out. So yeah, exactly, yeah. And so it's been only a few days. No worries. It's fairly straightforward. Like, it's a fairly straightforward idea, which is easy to understand for which is good for patients. And so it's been a few days, and I don't know if I would expect to see any difference if there was a problem in that time, but everything has been fine. So I don't know. There's also this is also how I know there's something weird with my brain, because I've been taking those pills for even longer than the injections. That's since 2004, and like daily since 2004. And when I stopped it on the Thursday, it was not like there was no, oh, I feel like I should be doing something. It was just like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I have not formed a habit in that sense. After like almost 19 years, like, no, just like, okay. Which means it's taken effort every single time, I think. which is a wild thought to have, but there we are. So yeah, it's been a big sort of switch up of how that all works. Yeah. But yeah, now we just stick with it and we'll see how it goes. And it was funny when they were doing the randomization. They basically had a computer open with, we're going to click the button and randomize you into one of the two groups, either stay on the meds or come off the meds. And the the doctor said, which one do you have a preference? Which one would you like to be on? Just out of curiosity, or I think maybe for their for their notes. I said, oh, I'd like to come off them because that would be a step forward, and I wouldn't have to pay for that prescription. And they're like, all right. And apparently I was the only person so far, because it's a fairly early on in the trial, but only person so far who actually got what they wanted. So yay me, I guess. Yeah. Also, random aside, not completely random aside, but so this is a chronic condition, and I still have, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to stop the pills, the azathioprine, is because it was like, you wanna this is a chronic condition, and these meds are for this chronic condition. And here in the UK, a lot of chronic conditions have free prescriptions, or however you want to describe it, but you don't have to pay for your prescription if it's meds for a chronic condition. Medical exemptions, yeah. Crohn's is not one of those, despite the fact that it is a chronic condition, which is absurd. Luckily, I getting the injections through the hospital, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, to take it at some point, Richard. Oh God, man. not to be all, not to oh God. Yeah, I mean, UK politics has been a mess for a long time, but what the hell? God, I don't want to say like, oh, we've got them this time, or is this the last straw? Because there's been several of those, but it would be darkly ironic, or just like deeply. If match of the day is like the last straw for people, I mean, I'm just glad that there would be a last straw, but whatever. Yeah, dear Lord, what is happening in there? Yeah. If you haven't seen, and I don't want to, this is supposed to be a chill stream today, so I don't want to get, if I start talking about this too much, I will become furious about the government. But basically, there's some very regressive and very awful immigration policies being touted at the moment. And presenter on Match of the Day, Gary Lineker, who's an ex-footballer and generally all around sort of fairly like inoffensive TV personality, said on his own social media that this is yes, that's the thing, he does go off pretty hard for these issues, and he was like, this is abhorrent, and uses language that was, what did they say, like reminiscent of 1930s Germany, or so. It was words to that effect, and then yeah, and BBC were like, well, we can't have you do the presenting, or he got in trouble with the BBC for that, and it's like, good grief. And then he's like, all right, well, I'm not gonna do Match of the Day then, or something like that. And then Yeah, and then none of the other presenters of Match of the Day, which is a long-running football highlights program, for those who don't know, was like, we're not doing it either. Like, basically, they all essentially walked out in solidarity with him, and so they had to put on an episode of Match of the Day with just no commentary, just video highlights. And so yeah, there's been a whole kerfuffle about that. It's like that's yeah. And so people have been getting, quite rightly, you know, giving the BBC shit for saying, oh, you can't effectively punishing him for criticizing the government, which is that's not a good look for the Beeb. Like, not a great look for the BBC to be like, hey, you can't criticize the government. Yeah, but neutrality. The BBC has just been, yeah, it was what the BBC was famous for not doing. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, and then they'd also cancelled that episode of David Attenborough's newest series that talked a lot about climate change, and so now everyone is just kind of like side-eyeing the BBC of like, what is going on over there? And we lift up the mask and it's like, oh, Tory donors, that's what's going on over there. Yeah, Tory donors and board members, and Beaver's like, the Beaver's supposed to be neutral, and it claims to be, or it purports to be, but yeah. And it was the thing with Gary Lineker, was that he said it on his social media and so on. He's a freelancer. He didn't come out and he didn't even say it on the program. And it's the hypocrisy of the fact that he did at one point criticize, I think it was Qatar, for the World Cup, their human rights violations, something like that. I think that's what it was. And Beeb didn't have any problem with that. They were like, that's fine. So, we can criticize other countries, but not our own, which is like, yeah. So, Britain's been having a normal one. I mean, I say that as if that's a joke, but I mean, it's kind of, yeah. Tory's gonna Tory. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's been going on. Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. I love we both go, boop, pivot D&D. All right, good choice. I didn't see they released the stats for the movie party. That's fun. I did see some of the early reviews were coming in for D&D. What was it? What's it called? Thieves something. Honor Among Thieves, right? Yeah. And it apparently seems like the critics think it's pretty okay. It's fun and enjoyable, which is good. That's what I want. There we go. Oh, of course it was on D&D Beyond. That's why I didn't see it. Okay. Like, release for free, yay, on D&D Beyond. It's like, that's fine. I mean, it's a neat thing to do. That is like a pretty no-brainer tie-in, really. It's like, yeah, sure. And it does make some sense that it is on D&D Beyond, right? Where they're trying to do a cross promotion, trying to get people to sign up for D&D Beyond through the movie. If they just released it as like a PDF that you could download, that wouldn't really do anything from their business point of view. So I get it. I get why they've done it that way. But yeah, it looks like it. From what I've seen of the reviews and the trailer, it looks like it'll be a fun movie, and that's a big step up from the last time they tried to make a D&D movie, which is change shape 5 a day. Doric magically transforms into a beast with a challenge rating of 3 or less, or an owlbear. Oh, that's interesting. So it's actually okay. It's changed up a bit. Did a huge push for merch recently. Yeah, I mean, I saw that there was the plush Themba Child, or I think that's how you say that. Which was like, okay, that's a plush like chubby dragon. Yes, that's great. Because it's also like, I remember when the whole OGL thing was going off, right? A lot of people pointing out, like, if you want to monetize the brand, like, there's so little like official D&D merch, and yet there's so much room for in that space. There's so many things you could do that they just haven't done. And you think, well, just merchandise the shit out of it, And if you want to make money out of it, I mean, for God's sake, you're owned by Hasbro, a toy company. This should be a no-brainer. But, movie action figures, cartoon figures, introduce classic characters such as War Snake. No, War Duke with a snake flail. Okay. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull up some other things. Yeah, see, they're starting to... Yeah, let me see. There was a... Hold on. I do need to show you the plush Themba Child if you haven't seen it, because it's very... it's actually really cute. This is the real struggle for traditional companies marketing D&D that has no clear main characters. I can kind of see what they mean, but you have like iconic monsters, and that's a pretty good way to, yeah. I can see that from like from their point of view there, I suppose. Yeah, first of all though, I gotta show. Let me just show you Themba Child if you haven't seen it yet. This is the plush dragon that they're selling. Look at this chunky boy. That's great. I mean, like, yeah, perfect. People are gonna love it. I also saw that they're selling this glow-in-the-dark plush mimic as well. Like, yeah, that's great. Look at this lad. Size of this unit. If they had balls, they'd make a Strahd body pillow. Yeah, where's the Strahd body pillow, cowards? I mean, he absolutely would make that of himself. Mind Flayer body pillow. I mean, Mind Flayers, they'll suck your brains out. There you go, there's the marketing done. Yeah. I suppose, yeah, the sort of lack of main characters is... I'm just thinking now in comparison to D&D. You know, Wizards' other main... not D&D, MTG, sorry. We're talking about D&D. Magic, which is Wizards', you know, Wizards' actual, like, big cash cow. And that does... They've definitely made sure that they have many main characters. Well, they have well, for a while it was Jace and everybody else. But, you know, they have defined characters that show up a lot and that you can... that they can market. But yeah, with D&D, because of just the nature of it, they don't really have that beyond any of the... Beyond, like, the major villains? Like Strahd and Vecna and... No, that's pretty much it. Well, Tiamat, I guess. And then there are iconic monsters, yeah, like the Beholder, Mimic, dragons, some dragons, but those are fairly generic, I suppose. Mind Flayers, and yeah, and then yeah, it's basically like Drizzt and his gang, who is very much not a sort of like current reference. Nameless One and Minsc and Boo, I guess so. Again, those are like, you know, fairly old school at this point. I know Minsc and Boo showed up in like the D&D Magic set, you know. Minsc was a comic guy, yeah. But yeah, there's all these sort of, it's all the ancillary products where these things show up, not in the main. That's, I guess, part of the problem as well. It's not in the core product. The core product being, you know, the books, the DMG, the PHB, the Monster Manual, and like the adventure books. So like a main character, like a marketable heroic character, let's say, doesn't show up in that because the heroic characters are supposed to be the party. Yeah, there's no D&D version of Pathfinder Iconics. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can understand why, at least, you know, some marketers would be like, you know, oh, well, who do we make this of? Or how do we, you know how do we sell these toys or whatever? Yeah. I mean, I suppose what they could do, or could have done, I don't know if they would do it now, but like, as I have on hand, my copy of the PHB, which I always keep close by in case of emergency. You have the, for each of the classes at least, and for the races and things like that, you know, ancestries, they have the iconic, they have images for those. But we have here, like, here's a barbarian fellow, or another barbarian, and a bard. It's like, well, you know, why don't we take these illustrations or these character designs, right, and turn them, make the PHB class images, like this cleric here, into the iconic, you know, into the whatever, you know, iconic versions of that character that they can market around. just makes sense. The first barbarian is Wolfgard's Drizzt spell. Oh, fair enough. What do we got here? Is that it looks like a drow. A drow, druid, elf. Seems about right. There's a sort of bluish hue. And another druid with tiger friend. Oh yeah, the fighter. There he is. I do like this fighter art. So they have they have a potential roster of characters to pull from. Monk. Oh yeah, Paladin. Half-orc Paladin. That's what I'm playing at the moment in Red's game. I don't know. Yeah. There's a ranger. They haven't ditched the D&D Forgotten Realms novels. They're very, one thing I've seen from like the community, and this is going to be skewed because obviously it's the internet community. Also we've got this roguish chap. Wait a minute, who could that be? Is that Wizards have gone very hard on Forgotten Realms as a setting. They basically just put everything into Forgotten Realms, and well, not just Twitter, but Reddit and Tumblr even. Neither of which are real life, in many ways. But it's like some people keep wanting like Greyhawk or Dark Sun or something, but Wizards is like, Forgotten Realms. Sorcerer. Ooh. And actually even more than that, it's the fact that it's also like Sword Coast Warlock. Very specifically. And they're just kind of it's our old wizard friend. Wizard. Yeah. So take those. Have they? Maybe they have made figures out of those. I don't know, but you feel like they would. But Sword Coast, maybe Barovia. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's but it's very much like very narrow focus. Which on the one hand, I sort of understand from their point. Just like, oh well, in theory, it means they could really focus and concentrate and make something really good and drill down on this one thing, which is not what they did, but at least in theory they could do that. But yeah. Yeah, the thing that's the thing. D&D just is a big nebulous. It's a very nebulous thing. It has a sort of. It's in this weird place where it definitely has an identity, but if you were to try and like narrow down exactly what that is, it actually is. It's generic, or it's hard. I'm not entirely sure what that identity is. So if you're going to try and market it, if you're going to try and make money off ancillary products and things like that, then maybe you can see at least why their concerns are what they are, not necessarily why their proposed solutions with things like that they tried to do with the OGL and whatever are not particularly understandable, but you know, the problem that they're trying to solve makes an amount of sense, I suppose. Yeah, there's a lot of variance between tables. Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the more popular other systems or other like genres, and even like we move away from and I don't mean like Pathfinder, because Pathfinder has a stronger Galarion has a much stronger identity as a setting, I think, than the Sword Coast does or the Forgotten Realms does, because they've actually spent a lot of effort to detail it out. And they've released a book about, was it the Mwangi Expanse, and they're releasing another book about Changsha, if I remember what it's called correctly. Like, they're actually releasing splat books that cover the world building and, you know, other parts of the setting. But in terms of like expectations and like a shared identity of a shared experience, certain other games have a much stronger shared identity between tables. So something like I'm thinking of like Call of Cthulhu, Vampire the Masquerade, and franchise games like a Star Wars or a Star Trek game. Like, you have a much better idea of what you're going to get, not like guaranteed, but there's a much stronger like idea of what a game of that is going to be like. Whereas D&D has a sort of, it does kind of have that, but it has so much variance within it that it can be really all over the map. So yeah, it's just this kind of very nebulous thing where it's a lot of people's like complaints with it, in that it's trying to spread itself too thin, and, you know, trying to be too many things at once, and or at least trying to sell itself as too many things at once. Because my it's not really a hot take, but my opinion of it is that for all that it like, well, either it tries to like sell itself as, or tries to, you know, encourage all these sort of various different play styles, or various different, you know, things, and for as much as people try to use it for a variety of things, it does actually have a very strong, it has a really strong identity mechanically. But that just doesn't stop people from trying to do other things with it. You know, it's like either they're trying to market it as, or the community has decided that it is like, oh, it's a malleable thing. It's like, it is actually much more of a square peg than you think it is, in a lot of ways. Like, at least the current version, it's high magic shenanigans, you know, high magical power fantasy shenanigans. That's what it's really good at. And you know, that's the thing. I don't want, you know, I always get kind of, I do get kind of miffed when people are like, oh, it's terrible. I was like, yeah, it has some rough edges, but it is actually, in my opinion, genuinely really good at that. Like, doing some absolute shenanigans with a lot of power fantasy and a lot of magic in there. It's actually really good for that. And that's where I think the system shines mostly. It's like, that's where you don't have to fight the system nearly as much, at least in my experience. When you try to move outside of that, if you try to do like a gritty realism or a murder mystery or a horror game, you end up fighting the system a lot. or bringing in parts from other systems in order to fill the gaps, you know. So I think if, you know, but because Wizards hasn't been that good at like pushing that identity and trying to make it into a more generic thing, so that presumably in an attempt to broaden its appeal and sell it to as many people as it can, you've ended up with a lot of people being dissatisfied with it because they don't realize they're being given a square peg and told to put it in a round hole, or told that they can put it in a round hole if they want. Yeah, that's my take on that. My hot take. I don't think that's a particularly hot take, but take that gets you banned from r/RPG. Yeah, oh, that subreddit is the worst for that. Yeah, it's so many people that just hate 5e and D&D, and it's like, okay, I understand that you're miffed that it is like that it dominates the conversation, and that your favorite tabletop game doesn't get enough attention, but like, settled. I mean, yeah. And like I said, I'm not pretending that it's a perfect game, and it's far from it. There's a lot of there are a lot of issues I have with it, but it's fine. It works pretty well most of the time. Doesn't mean I want to support WotC by buying their stuff, though. Certainly not after the shit they pulled recently, but whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just, they've given but yeah, it really is their problem that there is underneath, the mechanics at the moment, like out of 5th edition and the thing, there is like a strong identity there that they are, well, consciously or otherwise, essentially trying to pretend doesn't exist. It's like, that's where a lot of the problems seem to come from. Yeah. You also just, this is part of the problem with online discourse anyway, is that, there is a difference between going like, I don't like this thing, and that's fine. But it's like, I don't like this thing, therefore nobody should like it. Or, I don't like this thing, therefore I don't like you because you like this thing. One does not have to follow the other, But it's so common where it's like, I don't like this, and therefore if you like this, I don't like you. And it's like, okay. Especially if it's something like, a D&D, like a tabletop gaming system. It's like, really? Really? This is... Okay. Oh, man. Ooh, Shadow of the Demon Lord. Yeah. There are so many... Yeah, touching grass was never an option. Because I like it. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah. It's, always been that... Well, it's been that way for a long time. But, oof. Yeah. There are so many games I do want to play, though. Yeah. I've also, man, I was thinking, my brain is already now like being like, oh, here's some other campaign ideas for you. You know, it's like I'm in the middle of one. I can't start thinking about the next campaign. I have to finish this one. Whatever, you know. But there's a part of me that's like, oh man, what if I went back to using? What if we, you know, there's a lot of things that could be done with your homebrew world that you made for the previous campaign. It's like there's a lot of space left in there. It's like, yeah. Robot knights could be so cool. It's like, shut up, no. La 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 la. And it's also like, in a more general term, I was thinking of like, you know, the old running, like, what would it be like to run an episodic campaign? Not like essentially like a series of one shots, but like where there's, you might have an overarching thing, but it's very, you know, episodic. Kind of, it probably comes from playing that little bit of Blades and Scum and Villainy I did a while ago, which lends itself very well to that. So, oh yeah, how would you, you know, set that up? No, I never read the 4E DMG. It started with 5th. I never played any of the earlier editions. Surprisingly good. I mean, that's what I keep hearing about 4th edition. I have no, you know, I have no skin in that game because I wasn't around, you know, I wasn't playing when that was going on. So, you know, when people are like, oh no, 4th edition was actually good, and I was like, okay, I didn't didn't have any strong feelings one way or the other, so like, how do you organize a game? I'm not sure if that's in the 5e DMG, but to be honest, it might be, because there's a lot of good advice in there that people have never read because they don't read it. Gems, what does the campaign look like? Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, what if you did, because, you know, this is just a sort of sketch of an idea, so it's not taking up too much of my brain space, but, you know, I think I saw someone talk about like nautical campaigns a while ago, and it's like, oh, I mean, an episodic nautical campaign is just like, you know, that's just Hornblower, or, you know, Star Trek but on the water. It's like, that actually could be a fun time. And so many plots you could steal from so many shows. See how long it takes people to notice they're playing a Star Trek episode. Although, depending on, well, given the groups that I normally am playing with, probably not that long. You know, high fantasy game that is being run day by day soon. Yeah, that is one of the problems with the sort of expectation for the way most D&D games are run, is that it is very, it can be really hard to get like time to pass in any like appreciable manner. Although, I mean, there isn't much that stops you from doing it the other way. It's just, it's really a case of expectations, I think. Because if you go into it with the idea of a sort of episodic type thing where you know that, you know, you'll deal with one thing and then sometime later you'll be dealing with something else, then you can quite easily say, I mean, that's why I picked this up from Blades. It's just like, you did the mission, you did the quest, or whatever the heck the thing is. It's now 2 months later and something else has happened. What have you done in, you know, we can figure out what you did in between, da da da. But that's not really the expectation for a D&D game. Yeah. But there's no mechanical, there's no like real, there's not really a rules like mechanical reason why it has to be that way, you know. Yeah, travel is one way to get time to do that, but right, if you're playing like right now, I'm playing in a campaign that is mostly taking place in one city, and in fact running a campaign that's also mostly taking place in one city. So yeah, without as Red says, forced time skips, it can be, if you just do it like the way you're kind of expected to do it, it can be really hard to get any time to pass at all. You know. So yeah, you gotta work those in one way or another if you want time to pass. Like, how do you know when it's a good idea to skip? Well, yeah, I mean, this is sort of, because this is something we've run into since Red's here. We talked about it, or with his input. But I believe I remember discussing this with Red about, like, so in our game, we have an additional system that is cribbed from Pathfinder, which is because we're a rebellion, we're the rebels against the evil empire, sort of, in that game. And so there is a rebellion turn that would come up at the end of the week, which would give us actions that we could use our things to do and whatever. But it was a really, at least for me, and I definitely complained the most about it, but at least for me it was a really hard mental shift to go from, you know, being in character, wanting to like solve the problems and doing, to then saying, because the turn would happen at the end of the week and that's when we would get all the actions. It was a really hard mental shift for me to just basically go to think, okay, we can wait, we can essentially skip until the end of the week, because that meant, at least in my mind, you know, that felt like basically saying we're going to do nothing until the end of the week. And that was a really hard shift to get my head around, because especially when you want to be active as characters and when you have a lot of problems you need to solve, which you do as the rebels. So it was like, oh, this is like a really hard gear shift. So, you know, it's tough. It can be, at least for me, I found it like really tough to get to do that, have that kind of mindset of like, let's skip to the end of the week when you're in it at that very macro level as a PC. What's nice is that now we've changed it such that we have a number of actions we can use, the rebellion actions that we can use, and we can use them at any point during the week, and it's just we do the rest of like the upkeep and using any actions we haven't used at the end of the week. And that at least makes, I feel like that works a lot better, because we can be like, oh, there's a rebellion action that we could use to fix this thing. We can just do it now. We don't have to wait like 3 days before we can actually do it. And it was one of those things that didn't, like, you know, because we could say that we were backtracking it to that day when we went to the end of the week, but it was just a weird kind of jumble of time to get my head around. So yeah, that helps. And then, you know, but that's the thing of that. That's why it can be difficult to, you know, get that time to go. Yeah. Well, the success of letting players do a bit of narration what they spend their time doing rather than play each of those encounters out in detail. Yeah, a mix of that is good. Yeah, it will always depend. I'm sure it's the same as well for you, but it will always depend on, for me, like, on what it is they want to do. It's like it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go off and go buy some arrows or whatever. It's like, yeah, you do that. Maybe like a small bit of narration about something neat or fun that they see along the way. Because I'm very much like playing it by ear a lot of the time when I'm running. So if I do that, I'm like, oh, you see a clown juggling on the street when you go to the thing. And if the player then goes along with that and is like, oh, I'll ask him, then, then we start going. But I'm not going into that thinking like, oh, we're going to, this is going to be a scene. It's just like, no, we'll just brush past, we'll go on that. And if the player engages with that, then we'll roll it out some more and see what happens. And if they're like, I'm going to go visit my estranged mother and talk to them about something, I'm like, okay, that we probably should play out, at least in some form. Yeah. Find the juicy bit and cut to it. Yeah, that, I try to, I don't want to like avoid all of the like mundane stuff, because it can be important to keep some of that around, but more likely to sort of narrate over that, or just to say, one thing I will do a lot is to be like, you have a evening meal, or time passes, and I will hand it over to the players to be like, basically to say that like this time is going to pass, or whatever it is, this without any incident. Like, you have the freedom to do anything. Are there any scenes that you want to do in that time? Anything you want to, do, talk to the other players, do this, that. And if no, then we skip over that. If yes, then we do that. It's very much like, especially in a game where there's like, combat or whatever, you say like, this space is safe. There will not be, you have this evening, this will pass uneventfully. Is there anything you want to do in that time? Yeah. And that just gives the players some chance to be like, yeah, I want to have a chat with this other player, and we'll role play that out. And is it by a very strict definition of the rule of things metagaming? Yes. Do I care? No. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Yeah, exactly. You can take the pressure off. It's like, this is fine. I'm not gonna jump scare you with wolves or bandits or whatever. It might be a little different story if you go like looking for trouble in that time, but that's up to you. You did this. But yeah, that's one of those things that comes down to like GM trust. It's like, if I say I'm not going to this space, this will pass uneventfully, you want the players to believe you, because that's true. You don't want to be in a situation where they're like second guessing that sort of thing. That companion with the party is together as frequent solo adventures. Yeah. Solo stuff. Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I haven't really done anything like that where there's a lot of like solo things going on. But I'm thinking back to something that would serve as an inspiration for that, and that was the Vampire the Masquerade, the Not a Drop to Drink. Oh, what did they call them? They did them at the beginning of season 2. What the heck did they call them? They had a name for them. Preludes? Was it Preludes? It was something like that. But basically, where there is a solo thing going on for one person's character, and then bringing in the other players to play NPCs in that adventure, in that little like mini-sode or whatever. Bite-sized sessions. Oh, missed opportunity. Missed opportunity. Yeah. But that could work, I think. That could work fairly well. Where you just say, like, you know, because the problem is, like in a very general sense, if you have something that only focuses on one player for an extended period of time, it's fine to, like, you want to give each player like a bit of focus. You know, you want to share that out, and you do want to do that. But when, say, the whole session is focused on one player to the extent that none of the other characters are involved, that becomes that's often not good. Memoriams. I knew there was a name, yeah. Because unless for some groups it may work. You may have people who are just as eager to, you know, be an audience member for the whole session or for most of the session. But I think, at least in my experience, by and large, like, most groups are not like that. A lot of people, a lot of players are there because they want to play. And sitting around for a while, even though, you know, you may be playing with your friends and you may be excited for them to get that much thing, you may just get a tad impatient and kind of sit there tapping your foot and be like, I don't even why am I here? You know, it's like, what am I doing here? I'm just this John Travolta gif of just like, you know. And so, yeah, I think that's what you want to avoid, which is why if you are going to do like a solo thing in the midst of a group campaign, involve the other players if it's going to take a long time, if it's going to be like a big thing. And yeah, it's what it all comes down to. Communicate with your group about what you want to do. Yeah. It's very much that sort of thing. Yeah. Had 0 spotlight twice in memory and it sucked both times. Yeah. I think one thing that's good to do as a sort of general practice as a player is learn that you can share the spotlight. You can be the one to say, you know, involve the PCs in the thing, you know, ask them about it, or, you know, set them up for something else. So, you know, you can all share it around that way. Although I will say one of the signs I think of a good group, or at least the kind of group that I enjoy, is where you're all comfortable doing what I'm about to say and know when to do it at the right time. And that is when there is a scene going on between certain characters and whatever, and you can enter the scene without like stealing the spotlight, but, you know, at an appropriate moment, and it all, you know, works together. Like there was one in Red's game recently where it was my character and I think it was Adorable's character. We were talking to each other in like we had just gotten up from the morning, and in the gang's base. Yeah, it was Doran and Valencia, and we were chatting about stuff, and then without prompting from anybody, like Helvia comes in like partway through the conversation, like, where are we going? And it's like, I was like, yes. That's what you know, that was great. I was like, yes. Finding those right moments to kind of jump in without it, you know, where it totally fits and makes sense. I love that sort of thing, because I also like to try and do that as well. But, you know, always you keep in mind you don't want to, you know, steal the spotlight away, kick the door in and be like, I'm here. Although that's what Reynard would do, my previous character. But that's what his character would do. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. It's just that sense of, you know, when you're all on the same page, which is what you want, and does come from communicating clearly with your group, and you know, it always comes down to that, and it pretty much always will. Rule 0, talk to your group. GM no longer asks us to RP amongst ourselves because we're too good at bits. See the shipwide fireman's calendar? Oh man. We have so many how many cryptids have we made now, Red? We've made we've made so many cryptids. 4? Ah, those are rookie numbers. We need more. More cryptids. A cryptid in every house. Yeah. Keeps coming up as well. I know there's at least the flying man and the jumping woman and what were the other ones? Oh man. Flying man, Spring Hill Jane, Ghost Girl, I think one more. Yeah, was it when Valencia turned into a wasp? Was that one? I don't remember. No, it wasn't that. Okay. Yeah, I feel like there's another one, but I can't remember what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So many. Just those are the fun things where you just, you know, you just start some nonsense and roll with it. It's kind of like they're known in other cities now. Yeah, the rumors are spreading. But it's kind of like the more benign and sillier version of the cube that Jacob talks about when he was running Vampire. It's like someone says something offhand. It's like, do you want me to cube that? I.e., do you want me to put that in a box where I don't get to use it? Because if you don't, I will absolutely use this again. It's kind of like that, but we're just like, no, this is great. We're running with this. Just no cube, more cryptids. The only thing they cube is Silas Plays League. Right, yeah. Which is just, I don't know, man. I love that kind of stuff. We're just like, yeah, fine. Play League now. Yeah. I think I've talked before about my idea for running Vampire. But oh yeah. Gloriously. I did, sorry, another aside. I did find it really funny when Jacob talks about how, like, you know, was it Reverend Brother Sweetwater was a villain NPC that he'd used in a previous campaign, and it was like talking to that group and being like, hey, who should I bring over? And they're like, oh, let's see them have to deal with Reverend Brother Sweetwater. And he was like, because he was a proper menace to them and a really psychological talking about, and then the Not a Drop to Drink crew just burned down the church he was in. It's just like they didn't really ever talk to him, and they're just like, oh, he's clearly bad, let's do some arson. It's just like, yeah, that'll do it. I mean, yeah, it's very much the kind of like, why don't we just shoot him sort of thing. Very, very pragmatic approach to dealing with them. Yeah, burn the building, stake him, and then just keep hitting him. Yeah, it's great. which is like it's. I think he said something like, "Who's going to have so many things to talk to you about?" or something like that. It's like, man, that's that's gaming. Yeah, hunters would be proud if the gang wasn't also all vampires. Yeah. It just goes, you can't be too precious with, you can't afford to be too precious with some of your like ideas for villains and things like that, or even just moments, because I mean sometimes it is worth saying sometimes you can be like, I would like let me play this out, guys, please. But but yeah, you can't be too precious with it, because that way forcing them to deal with it, that way comes bad feels sometimes, where you just, that's the kind of the bad kind of railroad. It's just like, no, you will have to deal with them the way I want you to, which is, no, you don't want to, you don't really want to do that. But yeah, you always got to be prepared to have your NPCs in a crosshair. And that goes for the villains and the allies as well. I remember, I think I've talked about this before. I mean, we've talked about a lot of this before, but I don't mind. But in the previous campaign with the same group I'm doing on Saturdays, there were a couple of NPCs that I really, they were like my, they were my favorite NPCs, and I had a lot of fun with them. But one of them was a tiefling paladin in training called Johannes, he basically had his own like backstory and side mission and thing, and they were like, no, we want to help you with to go back to your country, back to your home that ostracized you, but that you have a claim, a claim to the throne of, but you were ostracized, but you grew up there, so you want to actually help, and so we want to help you go back and to roust the evil cult that has taken root there. And I was like, everyone, the party really loves him. I really like him a lot. He's just a really sweet, good lad. But I'm like, I had a distinct thought of like, no, I gotta put him in the crosshairs. I have to. It's like looking at him, it's like, I love you, but paints target on back. It's like, all right, let's do this. And yeah, that worked. It actually worked out really well, and resulted in possibly the most emotional moment in that campaign, where for various reasons he was sort of like paladin in training, wanting to follow a particular god, and the god uses him to manifest an avatar at the end of that mission, the end of that quest, to finally wipe the evil from his home. Except that channeling that much divine energy through him killed him. Luckily, they had a diamond and a revivify, and were able to get to him just in time to bring him back. But yeah, no, he did die. he got used up like a battery, basically, by the same god. And yeah, that was intense. But that was very much like, yep, nope, he's in the crosshairs. He can totally die. There is no no plot armor. In fact, I'm giving him the reverse of plot armor, in that fulfilling this quest will actually kill him. Yeah. So that was a plot execution. Yeah. So yeah, there was, I think it's like, there are my three favorite NPCs. I mean there are a lot of good NPCs in that game, but I think my top three is him, is Johannes, and then the and then the sort of ADHD inventor, gadgeteer, wizard type called Thea, and her and her girlfriend, and then later wife, Quarter half-orc blacksmith. They were, yeah. They had a wedding during the campaign on an airship, on the party's airship that they got, where the paladin's steed was the flower girl. Shortly and this was before the party then Halo dropped out of that same airship onto a desert. It was a lot of things happened. It was a thing. Yeah. Those are the ones where I'm like, those are my these are my children. Sort of. Yeah. So one day. This is what I mean, like, this is like the high magical shenanigans. I love it. That's what I lean into. That's what we do. You know? I think my model for a good, like, fantasy campaign, and my model for a good fantasy campaign is Discworld. You know? Where it is absolute ridiculousness going on, but at the center of it, there are characters that you care about, and there is some emotional honesty and connection to them. You know? And I was watching an interview with Terry Pratchett actually just the other day, just on my YouTube recommended, or I don't know, it was down a YouTube rabbit hole or whatever it was. And where he says, you know, the genesis of the Discworld was basically taking all these generic fantasy things, and this is going to sound odd because of how, you know, comic the books are, but taking all this generic fantasy stuff and taking it seriously. And by taking it seriously, it becomes funny. And I'm like, yeah, I do like that. I really like that approach. It's like, you know, what's it like to be Conan the Barbarian when you're 85 and your back's giving out and you've got the hemorrhoid ring on the saddle of your horse? You know. So that's what I try to... That's what I'm always trying to emulate when I'm doing like a fantasy game. Because it's like, yes. We're going to examine these things and take them seriously, and thereby make them a little more absurd. Yeah, because I realized, like, I have not run for you for a significant period of time. I've done like one-shots and well, for a while, other than the sorry, meant to other than the since the Star Wars campaign. Like, that was the last time I did any sort of long period of you know, that. Seriously logical endpoint versus seriously dramatically. I suppose that's true, yeah. I think there's another Pratchett quote where he says that some people think that serious is the opposite of funny, whereas the opposite of funny is not funny, and that you can be funny and serious at the same time. It's like, yeah. That's true, yeah, you haven't. Yeah, I'm still not sure what I want to... Like, I have, you know, as you know, many campaign ideas for when this one wraps up, which we're definitely hurtling towards, like, the last chunk of, I want to say. And some of the group, like, some people in the group want a different sort of... I don't know. I could happily play more D&D though. Like, I want, there's a spacey campaign I want to do. I want to maybe try a vampire-y thing, but I could easily just like keep playing more D&D. Which is part of why I want to actually change it up, to be honest. Yes, I have seen that where he's about Tolkien. Like, with modern Western fantasy, it's like he's Mount Fuji, as he is to Western fantasy, as Mount Fuji is to Japanese art, where it shows up a lot, and to the extent that if it doesn't appear, you have made a deliberate choice to not include it, or you're standing on it. It's kind of everywhere. Yeah. Man, I've just recently been like really interested in the sort of cultural moment when something like that like comes out, where, you know, Lord of the Rings is released for the first time, or I was just recently thinking about like the cultural context of Star Wars, like the first, literally just Star Wars, the first movie, when it came out. You know, that's a really interesting thing to me. No, I haven't. No, I keep hearing people mention Dungeon Meshi as a good manga, and yeah, I'm not much of a weebsman. I've watched an anime or two in my time, mostly like the really big, like classic ones. Well, a couple of them, like Akira, and I did watch Gurren Lagann back in the day. Some of which I know that hasn't aged particularly well, but also includes giant robots punching each other, so, you know, swings and roundabouts. Yeah, no, I know it's a cooking show / dungeon crawler. Yeah. Is it one of the... Because I know that this is a genre of fiction, or, you know, particularly I think like webcomics or webtoons. Is it one of those that's like a what's it called, lit RPG, where it actually has RPG mechanics? If it sounds okay, so it's not good, because I haven't read any of those, but that really does not appeal to me at all. What if you were in OD&D? Okay, so it's that kind of like setting, but it's not treating it as though it's actually an RPG. Okay, good. That makes me a little more interested to read it then, because I feel like I've seen a lot of those, or people, you know, talk about lit RPGs as a thing, and I'm like, I don't know. I haven't read any, but it really does not appeal to me at all. Dungeon Meshi. I mean, yeah, I may check it out. I'm just doing a quick Google just to have a look at some of the art from it. Could be it. Looks. Yeah. How anime is it? Oh, it's no, it's actually okay. So this is not like something I have a direct like experience with, but it seems to harken back to like much old, like more retro anime styling, even like a I don't know. I don't have any good examples. Alright, I may check it out. But yeah, what was I talking about? I don't remember. But yeah, I think what we were going to do, what I could do next. Because, like I said, I've got different ideas for different like campaigns, but I also have a bunch of different like D&D ideas as well. Especially when I say like my homebrew world of the Broken Moon. I never gave it a proper name, but that's essentially what it is. And there's so many more things I could do there. Yeah. Oh yeah, prep streams are difficult. I mean, yeah. When your players watch the streams, yeah. It's also I will also say that right now, my prep for most... Yeah, scheduling prep is a mess as well, yeah. My prep for the campaign that I'm running right now would not take up a full stream. Like, from where we're at the moment, I have a... Like, I don't need to... Yeah, sexy goblin. Done. Like... This is... I usually end up... I've noticed now, having done several campaigns, like... There's always, for me, that like I do a lot more prep earlier on, and by the time we get to like the latter half, the back half of the campaign, because it's been like set up and set up and set up, and we know, you know, the ball has been rolling for a while, I don't have a lot of what exploiting old prep. Yeah, exactly. So I don't actually need to do nearly as much prep. The prep that I actually need to do is a lot more mechanical, and is a lot more make the map and, you know, draw in the bits and put those stat blocks in, and that's not particularly interesting, I think, to like stream or make, you know, content out of that. That's very mechanical. Although making that, well, okay, truth be told, most of the time I don't. Most of the time I Google or I go on like r/battle maps or D&D maps. It's like, is there something that's close enough that I can just yoink? And usually the answer is yes. If the answer is no, then I will open up Dungeon Draft and make something in that. And I suppose that could be that might be an interest, you know, that could work as a stream, but I can't do that reliably. And also, yeah, that's also very true, Drew. Like, a lot of my prep is just like, yeah, brain juices throughout the week. Yeah, very much so. So yeah, I think the closest thing I could come to, I tell you what I have thought about doing. It's not exactly prep, but it is D&D or TTRPG adjacent, which is going back to doing some art streams and just doing like character designs again, because that was always a lot of fun. And I got a bunch of character ideas, like for characters I might want to play or whatever, that could provide things for that. Or I was also thinking, make a big wheel of you know, randomize them and see what we get, because I've done that before, where I've been like, you know, oh, let's generate a character and see what I get. Like, a, you know, roll, the wheel will provide. Yeah, that I think could make for a good stream. I forget what the thing is where you make the wheel that you can spin, but I know that's a thing you can do. I've seen people do it. But yeah, also, since we were talking about my homebrew campaign, also it's funny, it was very like my first big D&D campaign that went for like three years, I think, all told, was entirely homebrewed. Its setting, well, not entirely, it was mostly homebrewed, and then I stole Sigil and the rest of the planes, but whatever. And a lot of the advice is like, oh, don't do that, it's so much more work. It's like, yeah, it is, but I had fun. I actually would feel like more work to me to make a camp to run a module. I don't know, I haven't like done it too much, but I feel like that's what I feel like. I just get the sense that it would be more work for me to do that, because I know I will be fighting the module a lot of the time. I don't know. I may be wrong about that, but that's just my inkling, where I'm like, no, that's dumb, I'm going to do it this way. Or like, oh, it says to do the... Oh, right, it said to... I forgot what it said to do, and I didn't... It's much easier if I can just toss that and just be like, it's fine. We'll figure it out as we go. But yeah, this is also that last campaign with that homebrew world. We had these made at the end of it, these little coins Hold. Oh yeah, that's in focus. That's mine. There we go. And if I spin this around, there's the world of the broken moon. Come on. You had it a second ago. Figure it out. Or don't. Hold on. Let me try this one. Oh. Hey, there we go. There. Oh, I can't remember where we got those. I think it was Linz who set it up. And it was off an Etsy store, I believe. An Etsy store that would basically, like, you know, send them a PNG, a black and white PNG, and they will engrave onto a metal disc for you. Laser engrave or something like that. It's an Etsy store, and I cannot recall what it was called. Let me see if I can find it. Ah, yes, I believe I have found it. Yes, I think I found it. Yeah. There are a bunch of these, but this is the right one. If I find, why is it Etsy Canada? That's not right. Okay, maybe I can just take the Canada out of the URL and see if that works. And everything after the question mark. Yep, there we go. There we go. Etsy.com/shop/EA belts. That should do the trick. I don't know why it thinks I'm in Canada. I'm not in Canada, you fool. Whatever. There we go. Sorry, I'm just sorting that out. There we go. Anyway, I believe that is where we got them from. That was still bookmarked in my web browser, thankfully. But yeah, they were. It was Lindsay who set them all up, and she was saying they were very good with the whole process, and there were a number of different options, and it had several different designs because the back was the same with the moon, because they were Moonbeam Investigations. That was where their where their base was on Moonbeam Avenue, and then the other sides were all their characters, or something to do with their characters, and I got the Dungeon Master. With a D20 with an eye in the middle of it. Because their enemies for a long time were a group known as the Thousand Eyes. So I had just an eye in the middle of it. Yeah. Yeah, that was very cool, and I believe it was like relatively inexpensive to get one of those set up. But yeah. Oh, I'm gonna yawn. excuse me. Oh, yeah, £16 times 5. Yeah, so you know, on an individual basis, relatively cheap, and it's, you know, custom made and shipping and all that. So, and you know, support your artists and pay them for their work and whatnot. I don't know, there may be other places you could get that done, but I'm pretty sure that's where we got ours from. Oh, that reminds me, actually, speaking of store stuff, I have now set up I actually set up that there is now alerts for stream alerts for store purchases. And I didn't realize that was a thing I could do until hey, there we go, there's the store. And until someone pointed it out that it was like, oh yeah, there was an option to, do you want to share this as a thing? I was like, oh, why didn't that come up? Because I had to enable it in Stream Elements. So it is now. Yeah. So, you know, if you but that's just a fairly minor thing that I set up earlier. Oh. Oh, I know. That's what I was doing. So why did I have this open? Well, I opened thing because I was gonna go and pull up. The homebrew world. Where is it? My files. Where are my files? Oh no, that's incorrect. That's not entirely incorrect. That was the first version of it, which was made in Hexographer. No. Wonderdraft maps. That's right. Yeah, here we are. I believe I can. Yeah. That's the world map for my homebrew setting. That was made in Wonderdraft, which is similar to Dungeon Draft, and I definitely recommend if you want to make maps. It has a bunch of cool brushes for trees and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Just trying to think, where did we go to? We started out here in the city of Nyrith, which is where a lot of stuff happened. They did go to Nevrathon and this kind of area. They ended up right there in the middle where there's a big, massive, gigantic wound of a crater and a big hellscape in the middle of it, which is where a part of the moon had fallen on it in ancient times. And oh yeah, they were here briefly. And then there's all of this stuff. And yeah. Oh yeah, actually, two of the ideas I have for like further things in this world involve kind of this region, where we have hold on. Yeah, here we go. The Folrad territories, which is this sort of various states. There are kind of warring states that used to be an empire, the Folrad Empire, and now it broke up into a bunch of different states. Some of which you can see some references that I pulled from. And they're on the other side of the mountains from Scovia, big nation with the capital up there. And Castle Folrad. But one of the things, because we never really quite got to this, I think I mentioned it once or twice, but Castle Forrad is basically the sort of ancient seat of the empire that was up there, and I imagined it as essentially a mega dungeon, where it's a kind of Gormenghast-like castle that is just the size of a small city. You know, it's like gigantic, and the idea being, if you can reach the center and the seat of power, then you can take your claim of the throne. And so every once in a while, I don't know, maybe on some significant date or after a significant number of years, you know, people would send, or maybe just on a regular basis, the various states would send, you know, teams of people to try and get through to the center. The ceremonial venturing of the castle. So yeah, I was like, oh, you could totally run just a big mega dungeon of Castle Forrad, trying to get to the center, and you can have rival parties and all sorts of stuff like that. And the other thing was like doing something in Zamolkova, which you can't quite see here, but this city, I didn't have a great way of showing this at the time, but it contains floating islands made of elemental crystal, and they produce airships, and so they have a bunch of, they have airship technology and so on. And they have a very like vertically stratified culture. And above the sort of floating islands are cloud giants who kind of essentially rule over the city. And so you have a sort of very like low to the ground where all the, a very class-based like elevation, how high up you are is kind of your social standing. So doing something set in the city of Zamolkova with the tensions between the cloud giant the cloud giant bourgeoisie and the and the and the proletariat at the bottom, that sort of thing. That could be a lot of fun. Man, there's also just Lost Plains, a bunch of stuff going on over there. Oh yeah, this was my initial map of this. I was like, this is kind of hard to see. Oh, that's better. And yeah, there we go. A couple versions of that map. And we had Hollowlands, Remembrance, Bleak Isle. Oh yeah, the other area I wanted to mess around with was the Petrified Sea, where have it filled with petrified, like giant petrified monsters, or like things from ancient times. So going through the sea, there's like a series of islands poking out of it, but it's like a giant petrified hand, or that sort of thing. Yeah. So I mean, like they save the world and all that, but there's still so much more that I could do with all of this. If I ever wanted to like run a what the heck was it called? Jungles, dinosaurs. Oh my. Why can't I remember? Chult, yeah. Tomb of Annihilation, yeah. This is where it would live. It would we'd go here. This would be Chult's equivalent. On Valinde, which has a lot of elves in it in my setting. You can tell by the kind of Tolkien adjacent name, Londoriath, which might actually be a Tolkien name, I don't know. It's a good chance. But yeah, dense jungle and mountains and whatnot. And then I did joke that Camargue down here in the sort of this long, thin southern continent, this is where all the orcs are, or this is where a lot of orcs are. You know, in the kind of New Zealand equivalent, because that's, you know, haha, funny joke. That's where they filmed Lord of the Rings, etc., etc. But I don't know if that's like, I can't. Well, it's kind of canon because there's the Jaws of Grumsh down there, but you know. We had the Cape of Myko, where there's just a big like mushroom forest at this cape down here. And this is like major cities and whatnot. Yeah, there's so much more. And then over here, the Western Waste, where there was a big, like a piece of the moon hit the planet a long time ago, and this kind of area is just completely screwed because of it still. And there was a big empire here, and they were wiped out by that, and there was a big, you know, fight. And this is where there's a lot of Western Wastes and such things. And so there are a couple of, like, you know, expeditions that go into there to try and claim land or plunder stuff. Yeah. And then a lot of, like, I don't have, I mean, this is the kind of place you would do the sort of an icy campaign, you know, up there. Maybe not so much down there. Probably starting from like up here and then just going beep across there. Yeah. So much more room to play with in here. Yeah. Anyway. So basically, if I ever do go back to do, if I do end up doing another like D&D, you know, fantasy game, I'm probably just going to bust out the old homebrew setting and and see what happens, or do something with that. Oh, actually, hold on. Let me just show you another bit of nerdiness that I did on this. Yeah. If I skip across to here, I actually divided this into latitudes. I divided it into latitudes so that I could use fantasycalendar.com to generate appropriate weather for the right for the right latitude they were at. Because I don't know if it's still, I think now it's kind of annoyingly like broken down into like a type of like what type of climate is like cool and rainy. Before it was literally like you could pick a latitude and be like, oh yeah, that'll work. So I did do that. Just to make sure I got the weather right, which really didn't matter that much, but I like the idea that I could just be like, oh yes, this is what the weather is, and it will change when you go somewhere else, and I don't actually have to try and think too hard about that. I just punch in a number and it generates some weather for me. So yeah. Actually, I can show you where that map started as well, because the first version of that map was made in Hexographer. Yeah, here it is. This is version 1.0 of this map. made in Hexographer. All the various different terrain tiles and whatnot. And I believe I sort of imported this into Wonderdraft and drew over it as a sort of background. Yeah. I remember it being fairly, like, actually quite handy because it's really easy to drop down different types of terrain. I haven't used Hexographer in ages. Yeah. think I remember picking it up because we used it in... Didn't we use it in our show? And I think that's why I was like, oh, I could use this for my own thing. Yeah. I'm also like, you know, I did a lot of work on this and it would be a shame to never use it again. Have a lot of characters that we could see again, or new ones I could bring in, you know. Yeah, always be reusing. Steal and reuse. Where is it? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a way back since I opened this Roll20 page. Here it is. You didn't pick grand strategy game, might as well pick ongoing fantasy world. Yeah. And I'm definitely, you know, it's definitely a big fantasy kitchen sink as well. It's not particularly, I don't think it's particularly unique, but that's fine. I wasn't trying to be. Yeah, here we are. In fact, I left it on the world map. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, let me you know what, just for funsies, I'm gonna take you back to the other thing. You can see how the final battle shook out. Also, check out this awesome map that I found. Does it have... Yeah, there we go. From Stained Carbon Maps. But look at this. And we had Shimeshka, who did get wrecked. And this was a big sort of lock called Manifold Lock that was holding back the prime material plane from the other planes, and Shimeshka was trying to take control of it, and the party was trying to stop her, and there was a whole thing, and they... I've definitely told this story before, but literally the only reason they won this fight, the party, the only reason was because this character, Hope, was played by Keeb, my good friend Keeb. She rolled a natural 20 on a death save, because at that point she's a celestial warlock, paladin, wizard, rogue, or roguelock. But these three, the celestial warlock, the paladin, and the wizard, I think, were all down. It was only the rogue. So like both healers were down and out, like they're just on the down and making death saves. So if she didn't roll a natural 20 and get back up, and then was able to heal the others back up and, you know, finish the fight, then that would have been probably curtains for everybody. Yeah, that was... Couldn't have asked for a more climactic battle than that. I'll just pop back here for a second. Yeah. That's one of the things I love about playing, what I call is like playing to the hilt, or like rolling out in the open, essentially is what it is. Where I'm not, you know, fudging behind the scenes. Certainly not that's, you know, rolls or things like that. Because you can, every once in a while, end up with a situation like that where, you know, it gets really tense. Yeah. What was archived in here? That's right. Oh, there was all sorts. That doesn't need to be there, does it? Oh yeah, this was another fun map. Let me pop back to this. Just a sec. We had this was the city that they spent a lot of time in, Nyrith. Where it was. This was made. I cannot remember, but there's a city generator, like a really popular one you can find online. I generated that and divided it into wards, and and then we put some markers on for where various things were. Mostly mostly taverns, as you can see here. Flying Cauldron, the Crystal Street Coffee House, DRINK, Fighting Sorcerer, the Crying Mule, Cloak and Whistle, the Fox and Wizard, the Broken Anchor, the Clumsy Axe. Oh man. Oh yeah, AAA, by the way, is the law firm of Axebiter, Axebiter, and Axebiter. A dwarven law firm. Who showed up like fairly early on, because the inciting thing for the party was getting together for a will reading from a mutual acquaintance. And so Axebiter, Axebiter, and Axebiter were handling the the reading. Oh yeah, and we had Sergeant Jensen of the City Watch, who definitely didn't ask for this. And Captain Smythe, who was Helen Mirren in a suit of armor. Yeah. Oh yeah, and they showed up a few times. Had the reporters from the Nyrith Times, Katarina Wolf and Flip, who's a Kenku like assistant. It was basically like a walking dictaphone, which is very handy if you're a reporter. And who else? Actually, was it? Did I have? Yeah, here we are. Oh, that's right. Yeah, they got their airship, which ended up being called the Profit Margin, spelled with a as in profits, as in seeing the future. See it as a pun or play on words. And there's there they are. There's the oh yeah, actually I don't mind showing this now. You can see my GM notes. Was mentored by there. Loves very intelligent, socially awkward, loves learning new things, wants to help people. Yeah. Oh, Nork, I forgot about Nork. Goblin friend. And we had good times. Good times. I'll get so yeah, be careful not to get sucked back into everything. But yeah. So there's yeah, going back to this world in a different area and a different place to the one we used. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah. Alright, what time is it? Okay. 7:35. Yeah. I don't think we'll get to any games today, it's fine. I'm just enjoying hanging out and chatting. And I need to... Thing is, I should probably try and think of. I've been trying to figure out what to stream. I was trying to figure out if I can. I did try and see if I could actually, if I have like Hitman World of Assassination or not, but I tried looking into it and I'm like, I'm just confused by the whole thing because I have Hitman 2 on PS4. Does it work? I don't know. I may keep looking into that. It's just a confusing thing for me. But just playing it by ear, it's all fine. The other thing, though, I need to check if it's still on sale. Though, just, you know, to make my life a little easier. Oh, there is Steam sale in 2 days. This is true. But I don't know if it's still on sale, but I think Great Ace Attorney was on sale recently. And that's on my wish list. So I should maybe play some Greatest Ace Attorney. Let me see. That may not be on sale anymore, but there's a Steam sale coming up. Maybe it will be. I don't know. Or maybe I just pay full price for it. Who knows? I'm just trying to be cheap. That's all. Oh no. No. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is on sale. Although I haven't played, you know, I still want to play. Just want them to make the make an HD collection for the Apollo Justice series of games, and I can play those. I did like one of the one of the top reviews of it is like, I hate British people, thumbs up. Which is like, yeah, fair. So maybe that. I don't know. I often kind of flounder around when I don't have a thing to be playing through. But there are a number of things. There's more. I think there was an update for The Lost Spell recently as well. And then there's all sorts of things. It's out fully. Oh. Okay, actually that might settle it. Yeah, I can see that you're playing it right now. I wasn't going to out you. I wasn't going to be like, hey, Red's playing it right now. But I can see that. Thanks, Steam. Oh, maybe I should then. Maybe that's what we'll do for this week. I'll play some Last Spell. Because that's a lot of fun. And now it's fully out. And it has been a while since I played it, so yeah. Yeah, now you have no excuse. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I was just like struggling to think of like, because I do like having a game to do like a playthrough of, like we did with God of War. But I'm struggling to think of one to do. Don't know. I'll tell you what I have been thinking about doing, by the way. I don't know why, but I got it into my head of like, maybe it would just be a fun time to go and play Oblivion again on stream. Because I had had such a good time with that game many years ago, and I kind of the idea of doing you survive the Oblivion phases. It's like, it's the Daedra, you see. Yeah. Oh man, that could be a lot of fun. And I like bounced hard off of Skyrim. Skyrim never grabbed me the same way that Oblivion did. And I wonder if I never played Morrowind. So have you heard of the High Elves? That's the thing. It's really silly. And I guess the other thing I could do is like I could actually do the main quest for once, because that was the thing when I played Oblivion back in the day. I just didn't do the main quest at all. It was like you get deposited out of the sewers or the caves, I think, or wherever you come out, and you're given a thing like, I think it's a medallion or a message or something. It's like, deliver this to Sean Bean, and I'm like, no. And I do and I go and do everything else, and I'm like, I never give him the I think it's the medallion. I think you have to go give him the medallion where he's like, oh, I'm Patrick Stewart's son, or I have to do stuff, and then Oblivion gates start opening. I just never did that. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go become a mage in the Mages Guild and summon big lizards to fight for me. So that could actually be a fun thing to do. Yeah, thousands of stories and none of them result in doing more than CWH. Yeah, or is it CWH? I think it's you, the hero of CWH. I remember like just wandering in there at one point and being like, oh, everything's gone to hell. It's like, what the? I just got here. I've just been, rooting around for stuff in dungeons and whatever. What the hell's this? By Azora. Yeah. Yeah, I'll add that to the list of things to do, because that would actually be fairly easy to set up. Although, did I actually... No, oh no, I do have, okay, no recorded activity of Elder Scrolls Oblivion on this Steam account, but definitely install it and play it. Yeah, it could be, I mean, we could maybe continue it into Skyrim, but I don't know. I didn't have as much fun with Skyrim. I mostly got annoyed by being just continually jumped by dragons when I'm just going about my business. I was just checking that I actually had it, because when I played it back in the day, it was on my friend. Okay, story time. It was at university, and it was, I think I had it on. No, we were all playing it on one of on a shared computer that one of my friends had, and so we would take turns, playing our characters and so on, and it got to be a problem. Like, we were doing it way too much when we were living in shared housing. I was like, have you guys like done any of your coursework or housework? It's like, no, we've been playing Oblivion. No, we've been playing it a lot. It was a thing. Oh, I could get that the mod Terry Pratchett worked on. It was the follower one. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up. Could do that. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Last played July 21st, 2012. So it's been a while. It's been a while. That was after university though. I must have booted it up for some reason. Whatever. That was a computer ago. Just reminding myself that I can go back and play older games, you don't have to buy newer games. You can play older ones. And yeah, I never played like the only Elder Scrolls is Oblivion and a bit of Skyrim, so I never played like Morrowind or the earlier ones. So maybe that would be a fun thing to do as a sort of retrospective. Thanks to today's sponsor, GOG. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Although I don't know about that. I don't know about that these days. 25% off that one game you played as a kid. That's right, that one. It's so wild as well. Like I was saying before about certain, you know, the context of when certain games or when certain pieces of media came out and were like revolutionary. Because that's I don't know. I just find that sort of thing fascinating, or trying to figure out what the reaction was to these things at the time. I don't know how Morrowind was, but it was definitely in that era of like early 3D games, where just the fact that it was in 3D was impressive in and of itself. At least I think so. And what was it? Let me see. What were the other Elder Scrolls games? I know there was Daggerfall. Yeah. So there was Arena. Was Arena the first one? Yeah. Arena was the first one, followed by Daggerfall. Then some other things. Battlespire and Redguard. Oh. And then Morrowind. Then Oblivion, Skyrim, ESO, and apparently a sixth one that Phil Spencer said would be coming out after Fable. I don't know. We don't know when. That probably won't be out for a while. It was in pre-production in 2022, so who knows. Oh yeah, I mean, actually, this is reminding me now of, because I did a whole way back now. Oh god, it was a long time ago now. It actually was a really long time ago now. On the stream, I remember doing like the Jedi Knight retrospective, starting with Dark Forces 1, Dark Forces 2, and then Jedi Academy, or Jedi Knight and Jedi Academy. Yeah, Beard Arc, yeah. So maybe do something like that. Although, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I would do it in that order, or if I would want to start with Oblivion. Lots of sci-fi menus beards as a sign of quality. It's true. When I stroke the beard thusly, do I not appear more intellectual? It's all Obi-Wan's fault. I blame Alec Guinness. Although really what it is, actually really what Obi-Wan is an evolution of the sort of wise old wizard trope. And, you know, Merlin, big long beard. There's ancient lore, and it's how it used to be. Alright, yeah, okay. Elder Scrolls retrospective. Why not? Put it on the list. And this, you know, I occasionally get stuck in like what's the new hotness? I should play that. And like, yeah, you don't, it's fine. One thing, certainly something I've learned is that like, trying to chase that doesn't really work for very long. So, don't worry about it. Like, it doesn't affect viewership that much. Because, you know, weirdly, if you're playing like the same thing everyone else is playing, you're just going to get drowned out in terms of discoverability. You're just going to be like pushed right to the bottom. So, yeah. As I've said many times, I learned a long time ago, just do what you want to do. You know? Do what you want to do and what you think people will enjoy, and don't worry too much about chasing trends. I think the last time I did that was Elden Ring, but then I was also very much like, I really want to play Elden Ring, so so you know, that one got me, but that aligned. It aligned with what I wanted to do. And of course, at some point, Elden Ring DLC is going to come out. I believe they announced that. I don't know if they announced anything about it, but they're basically like, hey, you want more Elden Ring? Elden Ring. Dead Island 2. Dead Island, not a series I played. Dead Island. Seems pretty standalone. Yeah, it's action RPG. It's all zombies and whatnot, right? Yeah. I'm kind of really over that. Like I'm very much over like the zombie game. I have no real interest in like the, you know, this one is probably like mow down lots and lots of zombies, and it's like, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't do anything for me, to be honest. Yeah. So, you know, it's whatever. Ooh. Excuse me. Yeah, we'll figure some stuff out. I think what I will do is we'll play some last spell tomorrow, and possibly Wednesday, and I'll see about maybe getting. Oh yeah, I could probably do maybe Oblivion or something like that. I don't want to promise too much because I don't know. But yeah, for at least this week, we can play last spell tomorrow, and I can see how 1.0 is. And had a good time with that previously. I mean, like, I've played. It's only just come out, and I've already played. Like, it's only just recently hit 1.0, but I've played 112 hours of it. So, you know. Suffice to say, I enjoy that game. But yeah, just sorry, I thought re-arrived in my brain after going on a tangent on stuff, because I've just been thinking again about you know, monumental shifts in gaming or media or sorts of things. Just find it interesting when, you know, trying to reconstruct the cultural context of when a particular game or a piece of media came out. Because I don't know, just find that interesting of like what was it actually like when this, because it's for certain things we take them for granted, something like Oblivion or Skyrim or, you know, Elder Scrolls games or other pieces of media where, or like I said, like Star Wars, where it's like, oh yeah, we know what that is, but when it came out the first time around, nobody had ever seen anything like it. And it's just, I don't know, like, I love reading about that and be like, what were people's reaction to it at the time? And how, how groundbreaking all that stuff was. Yeah. I think partly because it's really easy to just lose, like, that kind of sense of wonder for things, because you're like, oh yeah, we're used to that. Like we know what that is now, but it's like, no, this was a big deal when it came out. Yeah. I think partly I've been interested in that because I feel like I'm seeing I feel like I'm living in a moment like that right now, though. And this is a tangent to what we've just been talking about, but I was thinking about it because I was watching the Oscars news coming in. I was like, I feel like that's happening with Everything Everywhere All at Once, the movie. And it's like, this is something that like no one has seen before. And it's coming out and it's just, we won like 7 Oscars. And it's an indie film by A24 with a really like tiny budget. And it's actually like completely like blowing the competition away when it comes to awards or when it comes to like that sort of thing. It's like, that's actually, is this what's going on? I don't know. This is where my brain's at the moment. Yeah. So maybe that's why I want to go back to some older things, just to sort of try and recapture some of that. Be like, huh, what does it actually, does it stand up, or does it, can I see the DNA of later things in this? Yeah. What is the example of certain things? I don't know. Just interesting. Oh. Ooh. I don't know if that came across on the mic. There was a crunch there. Oh. Wait, I have an emote for this. I have 2 emotes for this. There it is. Oh. Anyway. Well, I tell you what, it is almost 8 o'clock, and I have been talking solidly for 2.5 hours almost. So, in the interest of saving my sanity and my voice and getting some food, I think I'll probably wrap things up there. Yeah. No, this is a good stream, and I have come away with some ideas for things to do in the future. Thank goodness. This is what I needed to do, actually. I just needed to talk it out with all of you. So thank you for letting me do that, and for just hanging out. And for continuing to do so. Oh, we've been here a while. And like I saw it was, I know it's Surge's 5-year streamiversary today. And I'm like, I've been streaming longer than you. Oh no. Oh well. Time passes, which is basically its job. And thanks to that, it's time for me to head out for tonight. We'll just do the usual reminders. If you want to catch any of the streams once they have dropped off of Twitch, or if you just want to use YouTube's video player, check out the VOD channel over there at Can't Wear Hats on YouTube. And if you want to support the stream, you can follow, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, or get yourself some merch at the store. And put shirts on the body, or stickers on wherever you want, or a mug to drink out of. Yeah, you can do that. But that's going to be it from me today. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll play some Last Spell. I'm going to say that now. It has been decided. We'll check out Last Spell 1.0. In the meantime, I hope you'll have a good evening, or whatever time of day it is for you. I know America has gone forwards. Daylight savings. We'll be doing that soon. It'll be fine. Anyway, take care. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.